Before we start, I just want to say really quick, for the people watching at home, these are regular sized playing cards. We all just have really small hands. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Smallest hands.
And heads.
Like tiny hands, like Oompa Loompa.
Small heads,
We're small heads, small hands.
We're elves?
We're very little people, and these are regular sized playing cards.
You know what they say about guys with small hands?
Small gloves?
Small gloves.
Big cards.
Big cards. I like it. That's good.
Okay,
so
sorry.
we are back with the Saints game. Let's talk about Drew Brees and what could have been.
What could have been?
Yeah, Aaron, why don't you revisit what you'd said about what you realized once the game ended?
So obviously as a Texans fan, I was closest to the Saints next. I think Houston and New Orleans share a lot of bloodlines together. So at the end of the game, I was pulling for the Saints, right? At the end of the game, right? What I realized when it was all said and done was, man, I just did not care about the outcome of that game. So it was a good game. The outcome sucked. I would really like to have seen a Brady Brees Super Bowl. I think that would have had a lot of marketing value for the league.
Yeah, it would have been epic. Maybe possibly the best quarterback matchup in the history of the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
We may have just seen Drew Brees' last chance to go back to the Super Bowl, which is pretty disappointing to me because unlike Tom Brady, and it's not solely because of how much success Brady's had, Drew Brees, whether it's very, very slick, calculated, careful marketing and handling, Drew Brees is a likable guy we believe that he's a good guy, and you want to pull for a guy like that. The things that he does, we may find out later that he's an unbearable cuss that is difficult to deal with, but they've marketed him as such that he's likable and that he's a good guy and that he's a stand-up guy. So
I don't think you need a huddle for a decade or two, right, without having a little bit of an edge to you.
I for sure. I wanted him to win, and furthermore, my dislike for Brady leads me to the thought process that Jared Goff doesn't have a fucking chance to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Jared Goff is a turd sandwich
Do you think
gifted this opportunity that he has right now.
So when you look out into the Instagram verse and you look in the Twitter verse, what you see right now is a lot of call for collusion. The fix was in. The refs handed the game to the Rams. Do you think at all it has anything to do with trying to protect Tom Brady's legacy against Drew Brees, who honestly came in this year and took a lot of records away from Peyton Manning, right? He's made an assault on the record books and his legacy.
Well, no. Honestly, I don't. No, just straight up,
Big
no.
side.
No, I don't do that either.
I'm
sorry.
I don't do that,
but storylines, right?
All about
it's about
the
money.
That's
yeah,
it.
It's
Period.
the money aspect.
It's about the immediate money, the money that's within their grasp right now. They can brand is a long game that they're constantly massaging. The one game is not make or break. The branding of a career, the end of a guy's career, the beginning of a Mahomes' career. It's all about a giant pile of money on the table that it can be there when the game ends or it can disappear. And the NFL is going to make sure that it's there. Again, we're going to talk about this in the second half of the show, so I want to be careful.
Absolutely.
Before we go into this, we want to talk about how that game one ended today, which was pretty epic meltdown fashion with a lot of assistance from the referees.
Yes.
That Los Angeles was able to walk away with that game.
Yes.
And God, Jared Goff is just about the most vanilla.
Dude.
See him try to hug homeboy?
So
he tried to offer the awkward hug to the guy that was interviewing him on the sideline.
you had mentioned
Unbelievable.
like Tom Brady's gonna own Goff, but honestly, the past 2-3 weeks, everyone in the media has been talking about is Sean McVay, and I really think that this is gonna be, Belichick's finest hour. All right, he's really gonna enjoy this one.
He's gonna show the young guy how to really run.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Like, heard on the radio the other day they were talking about.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. That's
Let's
fine.
not move on to that matchup in the Super Bowl yet, unless Are we done talking about?
No, no.
Okay, go
No,
on.
no,
Go
this,
on.
I mean, this is still on Saints, but McVay, Hugh Jackson. I heard he dropped that in an interview that he was referred by Sean McVay, that he knew Sean McVay. He said like Sean McVay's barista at Starbucks.
Yeah. Wait, but did Hugh Jackson really mention Sean McVay? Or
No,
that was
no,
joke.
no,
Okay,
no.
okay.
He was just
Yeah, someone said that Sean McVay's barista was taking an interview. That's great.
yeah.
That's great. I
And
believe that.
To on a serious note, something that's like so insane that it falls in line with the barista joke. In the press release that Arizona put out when they hired Cliff Kingsbury, one of the bullet points was that he knew Sean McVay.
Yeah.
They look not
That is why.
that he knew Sean McVay. They put
He
that
knew
in
him.
their press release.
Yeah.
The list of
So
reasons
that's
why
what
they
they were
hired this
saying.
guy.
Okay.
That's
well,
insane. That's where
yeah,
the joke.
exactly.
Right.
So,
Right. That's the origin of that joke.
all you have to do is drop McVay's name now if you're looking to be in like a coaching pool somewhere and like hire as a coach. Like, by the way, I blew McVay back in '82. Oh, you're hired.
Was he alive in
Yeah,
1992?
He's
So he
actually
was
he's what? He's
coordinator
no, he was
I don't
he's
think he-
33, right?
Yeah, so he was
Yeah,
not
no, he
alive
wasn't
in
even alive
1992.
yet. No, it wasn't
So,
even McVay.
so real quick, one last thing
He's
about
his
the
dad.
Saints. About the Saints
By
game.
proxy, I blew
Yeah,
his
exactly.
The Saints
It's in your
lost
heart.
their opportunity to go to the Super Bowl the last 2 years and the last play of the game in both
And-
games.
Well, no, it wasn't the last play of the game today. It was their last play of their
Series.
last play that they possessed the football.
Right, their
Was
last
a was
series.
a was a flagrant penalty that was a no
Blatant.
call.
The other
Blatant.
team kicked a field goal on the last play of the game for the Saints to not go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last play of the game was a game-winning field goal. Is
By
that
the other team.
by the other team?
Yeah.
Who was that
Okay,
other
fair,
team?
that's fair.
Yeah.
But the
No,
play
I'm
that
just
really
saying.
decided that game was when they didn't throw that flag, and then the
I-
Saints were forced to kick a field goal.
Fair,
Otherwise, they would have
fair enough.
lead.
But at the end of the day, these dudes were literally a play away from going at the end.
Those dudes,
Those
stupid dudes,
These dudes.
unbelievable. So yeah, Breeze out,
Crazy.
McVay in, and it's funny.
Yeah.
It's not golfing.
It's
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
not golf.
golfing. It's
It's
Breeze
McVay.
out, McVay in.
Exactly.
And let me ask you
Breeze out.
this: what
McVay.
about Todd Gurley? Like he really didn't do much, and at the end of the game, he wasn't even really getting carries.
They got 2 weeks. Something's wrong with
2
him. They
weeks,
haven't really
something's
put out what it is. C.J. Anderson's been.
I
more or
do
less
feel like
featured.
something was wrong with him. I don't know what. He did have that touchdown run early in the game, and he looked really good on that. He Supermaned on it and everything, right? So I thought he was actually going to be coming back. But, CJ said it. He said he's the freshest running back in the NFL, and he's done well.
He's
man.
fresh.
But that's not why McVay is. I think McVay is terrified. I heard this is not my take originally, but it's just made perfect sense. McVay's terrified that Gurley was going to get hurt leading up to the Super Bowl. Should they make it and then they go to the game without him, whatever the injury is, there's a high probability that
Yeah,
he's
when
going to
they're really-
re-injure himself, and that's what McVay's afraid of. Now they got 2 weeks. It's going to be win or go home, or win or lose, but go home regardless.
Yeah,
You're going to see balls out Todd Gurley in the Super Bowl. There's
Gurley,
no doubt about
Gurley
it.
had missed some weeks in the end of the season, so he had soft tissue stuff going on.
But it's going to be all cards on the table, pun intended, in the Super Bowl. So C.J. Anderson's going to take a backseat to Todd Gurley, unless Todd Gurley gets hurt on the third series of the game. Then what are they saving him for? So they're going balls out with him.
Now, he did
does
score
get-
today.
Yeah,
Right.
he did.
Right, but then they
And he looked,
Took
he
the
looked,
foot
like I said,
off
he
the
looked good on
gas.
that
He
run. I
looked
mean,
good on the run. I mean, he did drop a couple passes early on. They were worried about
and
him.
the
That's
Rams
not-
leading rusher when the final gun sounded was not Todd Gurley.
Yeah,
It was C.J. Anderson.
Again.
And the guy that touched the
Second
ball the
game.
majority of the time in the second half of the game and overtime was C.J.
They're reaching
Anderson.
over, right?
So they took their foot off the Gurley gas.
So, well, I mean,
Look,
if he's
I
your
mean-
workhorse all season long, and you have an opportunity to rest him because you just brought in the freshest back.
in football.
football?
Yeah.
Did you see his little gut? C.J. Anderson's little belly.
Oh yeah, no, he's like Zeke 2.0 or something. over here.
He's like Turk 2.0. That guy looks like me, except
All right,
a
so
little cannibal.
I'm done with the Saints game. You guys done?
Yeah, no,
I
I was done with it once they threw. Once they
Maybe-
missed
once
that
they do that
fucking
flag.
flag.
Maybe
Yeah,
have a
I was-
moment of silence.
I was done with it.
For Drew Brees.
Good.
And the clock is going to start as soon as Drew Brees retires. The clock starts on Sean Payton. in
Yeah.
New Orleans,
Fair enough.
and there's not a long clock.
They may go out
Fair
together.
enough.
It's a
I don't know,
short
man. Taysom Hill is not terrible.
All right. Well,
He's not good either.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's not terrible.
well, no, he's not terrible. He's more of an all-around athlete, but
Yeah.
as a
He's
quarterback,
not going to be big. He's not
I
going to
don't
be a
know if I
quarterback.
want
Just
him to
say
be
Sean
my
Payton.
quarterback.
That's my
That guy, I don't know if y'all have seen like the
That's my
Northwest.
all-purpose
You ever seen?
quarterback.
Teddy B?
You're a Big Ten guy.
Teddy B, man.
Yeah, Teddy's not going to be there.
Remember
Northwestern,
the
did you see the,
Bridgewater campaign after lose for
You guys are both talking at the same time.
Yeah, no, let him go ahead.
Yeah, do you remember
Did you
the
just tell
bomb?
me to let him go?
No,
Do
no,
you remember the bomb for Bridgewater campaign the year after the lose for luck, right? Bridgewater was supposed to be the shit.
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
never has been, and even
Yeah,
though
he
he's
even
been
came in
healthy
this year
now,
and played the last game.
he couldn't even
Trash.
stay in New York. Like, how
Well,
do
no,
you
he
not?
played the last game of the season for the Saints. Drew Brees was out the last game. Bridgewater started.
And he was very unsuccessful.
Yeah,
at that
terrible.
point.
Terrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
awful.
I mean,
Awful.
Which
I
makes
almost
me laugh when I bring up the bomb for Bridgewater.
here's a legit question. Right now, with with the information that we're armed with, if you have to sign a backup quarterback for the Texans for 2019, DeShone Kizer or Teddy Bridgewater, which one of those guys do you take?
Oh, Teddy Bridgewater, not even.
I don't even know if it is. For me, it's not an automatic. And
Yeah,
I
really
suffered through DeShone Kizer
Yeah.
in Cleveland, and I'm
They're the
telling
same,
you,
they're the same
I'm telling
page.
you
There's-
that.
One doesn't do any good for the other one. At least the other one's come back from.
To me, I got a question.
Look,
Which one of those guys I'd rather have as my backup quarterback? It's not a slam dunk for me that it's Bridgewater.
Yeah.
He was
it's
so
not-
bad in that final game for the
I
Saints.
mean, it's
dude.
points like
and he's
that
had more
where,
time.
Kaiser's pretty terrible too.
That's why
Yeah, he
guys
was really
in
bad
this,
when he came
you
in for the
know,
Rodgers this year, but I still don't know that I
who
would
came in?
automatic.
Sanchez earlier this year? I mean, like,
Butt fumble.
Sanchez.
butt fumble.
And
You see
he
his press
butt
conference about that?
fumbled in the game. That
Start
he
that
can't
clock and
do
we're
again.
gonna. Did you see some reporter came at him about the butt fumble with one of the first questions in his press conference before he was set to start, and he handled it like a champ. So Google it if you haven't seen it yet. He goes hard back at the reporter and like crushes it in like two seconds. He handled it very well.
Well, I mean,
and
he's
then
gotta-
followed up
he
with
has to
hey.
have been asked about that butt fumble.
But he handled it with class and
thousands of times. to
he's
this day,
able
you know?
to joke about it. Yeah.
It was like the longest. What was that sport? Not top 10. It was like the number one not top 10 play for like half a year.
I mean, it's still got to be up there on the list though.
But
It's
the
one of
all-time,
greatest.
it's like up there with Orlovsky stepping on the back of the end zone, which I can't stop hearing.
yeah, yeah.
Lately, because I think he's such a great analyst. I love Dan Orlovsky. I love his
You know what, man?
his eye for the
Culture
game.
liars. Dan Orlovsky's a liar. I'll tell you
First-
The
that.
more they have that dude on TV, the more I enjoy listening to him.
I
And
love him, man.
I
He's
forget
the best.
he was a quarterback. for
And
us,
now
and he was pretty awful.
he stepped out of the back of the end zone. So let's talk about the Super Bowl matchup. The lines are
Moving already as we speak.
Patriots are going to be favored by 3. I call
We
it.
started. It opened at -1.5, right? Or minus.
Patriots
1.
are going to be favored by 3 when
Yeah,
it does
it
settle.
is.
It's
it
-2 at
opened
the
at
South
minus
Point
one.
right now. The total dropped half a point. So things are moving. Money's coming in already.
I mean, at 59, man, I really like that under.
I don't even know that money's coming in that fast. That these lines are moving. I think they're getting a look at the other
No.
spreads, and I think
New
they're
They don't give a
England
rat's ass
New
about the other
England
books.
-2.
No, they care about their own line, their own number.
Okay.
It's what because you gotta understand these, like each of these books have different clientele that roll through there.
okay.
Okay, so like some of them are going to bet New England more often. Some of them are going to bet LA more often.
So I
right?
see you
just
got all the
normally.
different casinos in here.
Yeah, you gotta look at the top here, right? So we'll put this link up.
Do we
All
have-
this
Yeah,
information I'm
yeah,
showing
yeah.
is provided by VSIN, Vegas Stats and Information Network.
So in the meantime, I'll try to stop staring at that because we're all staring at something that the
Yeah,
viewers
no,
are
that's
not gonna
fine. I
see.
can share this with
Yeah,
the
they're-
producer,
they're
and
really
we'll throw it up
yeah.
on the show.
Fair enough. So we're looking at the Patriots being favored by roughly 1 3/4, which isn't a thing, but
Yeah, no,
it's
minus
there's
2
a lot of
right
1.5,
now.
minus 1.5. So there's a lot of 2s.
You're
so
gonna confuse the novice.
Or just call it -2 then. Although I even see more
Yeah. So this is minus 1.5
1.5s.
as
I
well.
see a lot of 1.5s there, but the
Yeah.
dust is going to settle. I think more
So here
like
we go.
3.
Consensus is -2, 58.5 right now.
The public's going to be betting on Patriots -3.
So this
by
is a
Tuesday, I believe.
Las
I-
Vegas
I mean, I
wet
think-
dream right here. Okay, LA is I mean Las Vegas is LA's home away from home. So
I think at -2, I mean,
have you been to Vegas and bet on sports before?
I think I'd be putting money heavy on the Patriots right now
Really?
at -2. Yeah.
Here's the thing, psychologically, after what we just saw Tom do 2 weeks in a row, I think the public's psyche is such that they want to put heavy money on the Patriots. So that makes me wonder what the odds makers' psychological play is, and I think it's to dupe people into thinking that the Patriots are the easy money. So to me, to kind of think around the box, and maybe I'm complicating it, but I think right now my money would immediately go on Los Angeles right now, because it seems so obvious that you bet the Patriots -2.
I feel like
too obvious.
I feel like when the Patriots are -3 on Tuesday, I think that's when I would put my money on the Rams, right? So today at -2, put some money in on New England, and then when it's -3, then put the money on.
So I don't think that we should overthink it, right? Like,
right, okay, fair enough.
Again, McVay, Belichick, right? Don't overthink this.
That's
Again.
That's a good
So
point.
what I was saying, have you been to Vegas to bet at a sports book before? Like,
I've walked
been
in
to
the sports
Vegas.
book, but I have not.
you have not bet there. What about you?
I'm not bad at the sports
Okay.
book. I walk by
So,
it on the way to the poker room.
In a nutshell, what I'm getting at here is if you were to ask just random people that are in that book where they're from, I would say over 40 to 50% of those people in that book are from LA or the
Okay.
LA area. It's
All right.
literally their home away from home. It's a few hour drive from LA.
It's
They
like
go there
here
all
also.
the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
No, it's like it's extremely close. So LA being in the Super Bowl with Tom Brady is literally Vegas' wet dream right now. I'm telling you, they are eating this up. They are, because everyone from LA is going to roll in there and just put down everything on the Rams. All right.
But that was already set. I mean, no matter what happened in the second game, they were getting LA.
Precisely.
Set.
Yeah. So that
It
was
was set
known.
after game one, right?
That was known.
Which maybe
It's what
explains
are
that
they
no
getting?
call.
Are they getting? Yeah.
Not
Touche.
only the money that they were able to profit today, but also the futures that were available to having
Absolutely.
LA rather than.
And I saw some on Twitter. People were showing
yeah.
LA to,
Yeah,
to
they're big.
win the.
We're talking about a pile of money that
the
exists
NFC,
today
yeah.
and is about to exist tomorrow.
Yeah, you got to understand all the futures that were set beforehand.
Right. True.
There were loads on both sides, right? But yeah, this is a pretty fair number right here. 2, I guess. I mean, it 1.5. That's Treasure Island. This is 57.5.
I would
Treasure
like to
Island.
get a little bit in on that.
So
Treasure Island on the Strip.
Treasure Island, yeah, on the Strip in Vegas. Treasure Island.
Yeah.
They do
Cool.
have a club.
No, I know you're.
Yeah. So
I
yeah.
thought you said Pleasure Island. Anyways, look. So, my mom right now, my gut's telling me Rams, and maybe that's what I'm, maybe
Yeah, I
that's what I'm
mean,
pushing
my gut's
right
telling me New England, I say it every year, right? Each time they go, I'm like, man, if they get there next year, I'm just gonna put it on them, right? I'm just gonna bet on them
And then
every
yeah.
year. So
First
yeah,
time
so
out,
I
yeah,
finally did
yeah.
it last year, and what happened? They bent me over. So it's like, look, it could happen at any time, but I'm gonna take Belichick and Brady over McVay and Golfy Cake. That's my nickname for him.
That's not a good nickname. That's
Yeah,
actually
any-
not.
no.
Can we edit that out? All right, take 2. You're gonna put your money
exactly.
on Belichick and who?
Belichick and
Play a little
Brady.
gaff.
Belichick
Goff?
and Brady, not
First of all.
not McVay and Goff. Yeah, no, none of
Call him
that.
9 or a pitching wedge.
No, yeah, you can get creative with the kid, but I'm not interested in having any part of that. So the total, that's another thing. It's in a dome, so weather's not going to be a concern. We got a couple over squads here. LA for sure.
No, I
There's
like
no
that. I like
defense.
that under.
I mean,
Like the
LA there's
under?
no defense.
Yeah, I like that under.
Which one? The
Oh.
it'll change, but what, this one? You don't want this one. If you like the under, you want to get it at the highest number possible. If you like the over, this is what you want to get this number.
Okay, again, we're
57
staring at the
over.
screen at the.
So 57, we're looking
They
at
will-
the
they will be.
Okay.
the overs and the unders, right? So we're looking at Treasure Island right now. They have the lowest total on the board, 57.5.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is sitting at 58.5. So if you want to take the over in this game, you want to take 57.5, right? If you're looking to take the under, then you want to take the higher number, 58.
Yeah, I don't want either one of those. I want to stay away from that total.
No total?
Personally. I do terrible with the totals. Each
Yeah,
and
so I'm
every time
going to
I
do
do
New
it, I'm
England
like,
and the over.
I know I
think
should
it's
be
going to be
doing
pretty
this.
chalky. I think a lot of people, across the country are going to be on New England. But again, Vegas is going to make their money off all that LA money coming there locally.
do you ever
Or they
feel,
pay all those LA kids, right? They pay all those LA kids off and just take everyone else's
Do you ever feel like when you bet the under that from the first snap of the game that every yard that's gained is just like a dagger in your heart?
Yeah.
Like, can you even enjoy a football game when you bet the under? Like from the opening of the football game, you're
it's
like, I'm dying, I'm
extremely
dying,
difficult.
I'm dying.
Basketball's the same
Every
way, though.
first down, every
Like each
that's-
possession in basketball, you know, it's like, oh, you hit a three.
That's
oh,
mainly why I
watch
wanna
you
stop.
screw me, right? Watch-
mainly why I want to stop betting on the totals because I always feel safer on the under than the over, and it's like a dagger every single thing that happens, every snap, every yard, every first down. It's like I'm done. I've just lost. I'm done.
He's
Fuck,
done.
fuck the under. All right, and therefore fuck the total.
Yeah, and that's
That's
what
fair.
happened. That's what happened in this.
So early,
New
and
England.
we'll revisit this, and hopefully we're going to record again before the Super Bowl. Early prediction for the Super Bowl.
I'm not gonna vote against. I'm not gonna bet against Brady. Can't do it.
Yay. I'm not betting against Brady either.
I
I
just said for several minutes now that I feel like LA +2 is the play, but I don't think I can ever go against. I gotta go. The Patriots are gonna win the game.
Sucks. It sucks to say that. Look, and I would almost rather Mama Fratelli get another ring than fucking everybody go McVay crazy.
I don't hate Belichick. I actually want to see Belichick. I would have loved to see Belichick be able to retain Garoppolo, had that internal struggle not ensued, so that he could prove that he is the reason.
Right.
More so than Brady. I believe he's the reason. I guess I want to believe that because I hate Tom's guts. I hate his
There's
guts.
something about that dude.
I hate him so much. He looks like a middle-aged mother when he goes out in his trench coat and his glasses. Looks like a single mother that just left a divorce hearing, and that's not my joke. But there's a picture of him, and he looks like
Well,
straight
Yeah.
trash, homie.
Him and he's styled like
When you're
Chris Jenner.
TB12, you can have any look you want, whether
I
it's
hate him.
derelict or not.
I hate him. I hope the world runs out of avocado ice cream just so he can suffer.
Well,
Is
like
there,
you said,
is
he
there,
had
can
to
you even
have
get avocado ice cream somewhere?
It's part of his regimen.
That's the only. That's his cheat.
His
His cheat is to eat fat-free, sugar-free avocado ice cream. That's what he does on his cheat days. And everyone wants to believe that's why he's so successful. It's actually HGH and a bunch of other malicious shit that he puts in his body. Because at 41 years old, 15 years ago, you don't do what these guys do now. It's HGH, it's technological advances that are illegal. They're all doing it. That's probably why Breeze is able to do what he's doing at his age. It's definitely why Brady's able to do what he does at his age.
well,
They're
I mean,
all
if
doing
they,
They're all doing
uncover something in the next like 5-10
Oh,
years,
Ray Lewis told everybody
it'll be
what they're doing.
well-
that deer antler juice. That's what it is.
It's like
Yeah.
it's.
deer
I mean,
antler spray.
you think that advances in traditional medical medicine and science are why Tom Cruise looks the way he does at his age? Why Will Smith looks the way that he does at his age? These guys are all on the juice. Whether it's
Is that the same as the
might be antler piss.
the
Might
alien
be-
church that they're part of, or
I think it's HGH mainly.
What
I think
about
it's mainly HGH.
you know, like
what about
the
that
UFOs brought
Sandra
them here or
Bullock
something like
that like new
It's all HGH. They're selling it as all these other
the
things.
new facial thing that she does? Like
Yeah, we don't.
they all from Ocean's 8 went and got it done, and they all came back looking like 20 years younger.
Because
well,
they also did HGH.
the fact it's the
While they were at that
the
retreat.
They
ocean of
also
youth,
did-
right? It's
They
not the
all
fountain
did
of youth.
HGH at that retreat. It's a combination of
The
plastic
ocean of
surgery,
youth.
plastic surgery, and HGH. That's how they're all doing what they're doing.
Dude, I'm gonna have to Google this shit because like it's a real
Antler
thing.
juice. All right. Anyway, so what? I think we're cutting now.
No. We are.
Okay. Well, we're on to the second half, right? Is that?
Yeah, we're on to the Super Bowl. Like,
No, we already covered the Super
No, I
Bowl.
get it. You're not hearing me. In the words of Bill Belichick, we're on the Super Bowl.
That was a very confusing way to
Look, she
conclude-
has-
to
she
conclude
has-
that you realize how
It's
confusing that
called
was.
an EGF facial, but they call it the penis facial. Like that's its like made up name.
So everyone's frantically googling at work penis facial
The
right
penis facial.
I think most people are not googling because they're just assuming it's what they watch on the internet
now. Penis
on a
facial.
regular basis. Yeah, the penis
Yeah.
facial is something I.
Don't be surprised
dude,
when you're
it's
like
a-
blocked at your office.
It's a $650 penis facial.
Okay.
Cool. Now that's in your search history, so that's cool. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Enjoy that when your son grabs your phone tomorrow.
Hey,
Party
Sir,
time.
Sergey already knows what I search. He ain't worried about my Penis facial.
It's funny that you refer to Siri as a he because everybody knows that Siri's a woman. So
Sergey
I have a
Brin
lot of
from Google is
questions.
who I was talking about, but
Who?
Sergey Brin.
I thought you said Siri.
the Google
dude.
I thought you
CEO.
said
Yeah,
Siri.
I mean,
I didn't know you got roped into this.
Text Randall to drop off.
I did get roped into it.
Yeah, you got
drop
roped
off
in.
Rope
Roman
me.
at the door.
The old rope and dope glory hole situation
Random.
we got going on.
So we've
Let's talk about sports wagering.
yeah, we talked about betting a little bit, right? But we haven't really talked about how it works, the terminology, or we've been talking, just assuming everyone knows what the hell we're talking about. But I guess we can go into a little bit of 101. Right?
Keep it brief though, because if anybody's interested in the conversation that we're about to have, it's because they already know about sports wagering. And if anybody's not interested, going over is becoming
no, that's not true.
10 minutes
so-
of defining.
No.
terms.
So
So,
there are
sports
some
betting
things-
is only going to get bigger, right? So it hasn't even scratched the surface, right? It just got legal last year, all right? Slowly
And
moving
it's
in.
huge.
Huge.
Lots
Just
of money
become
moving on.
nationally decriminalized
Correct.
by
Fully
the,
legalized
by the
by
federal government, and
Supreme
now it's
Court.
up to the states.
Right. The Supreme Court passed the
And-
ruling.
And apparently, if you know a Russian, you can place bets.
Yes, you can. All right. So everyone's frantically searching their phone right now to see if they know Russian.
Do you know? It's like gambling. Guess who? Do you remember that board game?
Oh yeah.
Does your friend, is he named Sergey? Click, 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 click. Okay, on to the next.
Yeah. That's how the no. So we won't even go down that rabbit hole.
That's a glorious hole. But
Too many holes in this game.
How do we get back on the glory hole?
It's
And now
Because
we've
it
come
was
full
so
circle
funny.
30 minutes
Yeah,
it was
later.
such a random analogy that there's no way that I'm not going to be thinking about Drew's fixation, fascination, whatever you want to call it, with glory holes. I think it's unbelievable.
well, it's something that we like TIL.
I think it's something.
Did I
I
learn?
think it's a hole that needs to be explored.
Is there still a straight on the board here? I saw a straight earlier. And
Yeah,
I got the 9-8-7 of hearts.
there's a
I see the
flush-
6 and
there's
5
a
over
flush
there,
on-
yeah.
There's a flush on the board.
There's a
Alright.
straight flush on the board, is what there is.
almost.
No,
5, 6,
9, 8, 7,
7,
6,
8,
5.
There is.
I got it right
There
here.
is actually
There's a
our
straight
track
flush on the
record.
board. So,
Okay.
as far as sports gambling has become decriminalized on a national scale, and then some states have begun to follow suit with legalizing it on a state level. And any state that hasn't done it yet is run by idiots because the tax
They're
revenue.
missing the boat.
I mean, what that money can mean for education.
Now,
alone.
okay, so-
It's game changer. It's a game changer.
last month.
Okay, so
$1.5
yes
billion.
and no on that. I would say, like,
Yes and no on what?
so they are missing the boat, but it's strategic, right? So just hear me out for a second.
Strategically not making money.
Yes, because
That is quite a strategy.
no. You have to understand that if they
It's
rolled
a
out,
bold move, Kyle. We'll
if
see
they
if it
rolled
pays
out
off.
in all 50 states, if they just rolled out sports betting, if there were, bookie windows at, every
If there were
corner in-
Barclay outlets all over the UK,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
all over
Well,
the
so
US.
what I'm
Right,
getting at
yeah,
is
that was good.
there's issues that have been coming up, specifically in the Jersey book.
There's just too much money to count.
No, not
No matter how many people they employ,
So
it's like we're still
there's
just here
errors
night and
that
day
keep
counting
happening,
money.
right? And so these are very costly errors. And the reason that they keep happening is because they don't know what the fuck they're doing yet, right? And so they're learning as they go. They're learning on the job, and it's very expensive.
So you're saying they did not hire mobsters? To
No,
come
they
to
did
this
not.
out
That
to-
is
You're
exactly what
talking.
I'm
So
saying.
you're
The-
saying there are
they didn't-
errors. What kind of errors are we? You got to be more specific.
So for example, the Denver game earlier this season, who was it? It was in Denver. This was at the DraftKings or FanDuel Sportsbook, and somebody put in a live bet, okay, and it was a wrong line, okay. And what I mean by wrong line is that it was an error on the book's part. They offered it at this outrageous plus.
Hmm.
So somebody stepped to the counter and put a shitload of money on it.
So I mean, that's literally just an accounting error.
You're
So
right, and they didn't
just
pay.
need-
They didn't pay.
Right,
for
they
it,
didn't.
right?
They didn't pay it, and the following day, it was basically national news
Yeah,
to
I
the
do
point
remember that.
where
they paid.
they paid it.
They
right? They ended up coming back out and saying,
It was-
"No,
I
we're
mean, this
going
is
there
like
and
if you
that's a very
mislabel,
costly error.
if you
though, right?
if you mislabel
Something at the grocery store.
somebody mislabels an item at the grocery store,
Yeah. You honor the
then
price.
I mean, you're just not running your business.
So this past
correctly.
week, not
simple. These are simple
last
errors.
weekend,
sounds like to me.
okay, last week in the division
You a
round,
simple error, but it was for several. It was for a large sum of
right,
money.
several thousands of dollars.
So the person in
It's
charge
simple.
of that is the one ultimately that's responsible that allowed that line to post that way.
So
This is simple. It's a simple accounting error, and if you're not like double and triple checking,
yeah, but there's a lot of money
line,
exchanging hands, so it's not just nothing is simple about it, right? It is an accounting error, but it's not a simple accounting error,
So it goes back to why there's too much money.
right? Because it literally made national
Said
news.
no
Like
one
we heard
ever.
about it. down
If
here.
Kroger makes an error in how they're pricing their steaks, does that mean
yeah, but they can
H-E-B's
actually
gonna stop selling steaks now because Kroger can't run their fucking business?
no,
Doesn't
because
make
one
sense
book
to me.
has nothing to do with another book, right?
Which is
That
why,
book-
any state not legalizing it now and allowing the books to open is missing the boat.
And those errors you're
I'm
describing
all
are no
for-
reason for other
Yeah,
I
states.
am
they're
all
irrelevant.
for them legalizing it in Texas. In fact, I can't wait for them to legalize it in
There
Texas.
are-
It will happen. It's just going to take time.
There are probably some legislators who, as crazy as it sounds, still operate and function on a morality scale, like with some morality behind their decision making.
Yeah.
And in some states, they're probably resisting legalization of gambling
No,
because of
it's
how much it can hurt people.
Saving people from
People losing their
themselves,
homes,
right?
people
It's the
gambling.
moral. It's the moral police saving people from themselves.
From what I don't know why this came up recently in a conversation I was having, but it's a pretty
It's all
pretty
Democrats.
simple correlation to draw. Like a lot of people commit suicide because they lose everything they have gambling, and they don't see any way out of that financial hole that you could create in one day. You could go from having a home and a family and a job, and in one day you could flush all that down the toilet gambling, and then you're left hopeless, and then boom, it's a
Yeah,
pretty
it's like a
common
very
cause.
harsh, sad
So,
reality.
but that's not the main reason why they're not.
So you should
legalizing it.
definitely,
They're too
you know,
greedy
be
for that to do
aware.
that.
Be aware of, the dangers of gambling.
Correct.
It is. It's not
right.
for everyone. And you
So
definitely
now-
don't want to.
so
you
now
don't
for
want
some
to bet
betting
money you
advice.
can't lose.
Now for some betting advice.
So-
But you gotta be
Good-
realistic about it.
good
You
gauge,
should
though.
be. You have to be responsible about it, or you're risking.
Look, at the
everything.
end of the day, no matter what you gamble on, no matter what you bet on, or no matter what you really spend your money on, right? You hope to get something out of it.
Yeah.
If you're gambling for anything beyond entertainment purposes, you're doing it wrong,
Yes.
right? You should be gambling extra money to have fun with because it's a thrill. You
Or money that you can afford to lose, right?
Yeah, you
No doubt about
shouldn't be planning to pay your bills with it.
Yeah.
So, you touched on it. I feel like earlier. I hope we were recording at that point, but how gambling is now potentially impacting the product on the field in the NFL.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. I know you kind of wanted to define how gambling works. I think that's a pretty long conversation to define money lines and point spreads and teasers and double results. Like how deep down that rabbit hole of educating the listener / viewer do we want to go before we just start getting into the meat of it?
Yeah, no, I think that
And
it's
that's a
very
legitimate
important
question,
to
right?
educate your audience before.
No, I mean, I think as they come up, I think we just we educate.
Yeah,
But I
and
mean,
we
very
roll
quickly,
along.
the basic things we can define quickly right now before we
I mean,
move into how it's
It's-
impacting the product on the field is money line versus point spread.
And
Maybe
money
just-
line is again just for the people that might not know what you mean by money line versus the point spread, right? You're talking about
Yeah,
money line.
the two main types of bet are you bet against the money line, which is the outcome of the game, and you bet against the spread, which is one team is favored and gives away points to the other team
Or
that they have
receives
to cover.
points as
Right?
the other.
Right.
So money line versus a spread, and then you can get into some prop bets and teasers and
And a very simple way to explain it to people who maybe aren't going to go any deeper into it is that with the money line, the favorite, there's an increased financial liability or risk in order to bet on the favorite to outright win the game. And then you're either sacrificing money for the opportunity to bet on the favorite, or you're sacrificing points for the opportunity to bet on the favorite. So that's really for a very simplistic way to look at the difference between how you would choose the money line versus the points.
So when you bet on the favorite, you bet a lot of money to not win a lot of money back.
You bet a lot of money to win a little money, and then when you bet on the favorite, as far as the point spread is concerned, you're taking the gamble to say the point spread is 3.5. That if your team, the favorite, wins by 3, you still lose because they have to cover that 3.5, meaning they have to win by 4 or more. It's a pretty basic, straightforward explanation.
And then you end up paying what they call juice on top. So the juice is basically the casino's cut, the sports book's cut.
The myth, I believe it's a myth. The myth is that the casino, the way that these spreads move back and forth through various wagers that are placed, the myth that we've been sold, in my opinion, is that the sports book wants the bets to be as close to down the middle as they can get.
Correct.
Because then half the people win money, half the people lose money, so the money that the people are losing is being transferred over to the money that the people is winning. And if it's 50-50 as they want us to believe it is, then how would they profit if they're taking in the exact same amount of money that they're paying out? And how they do that is if you win the money that you risked
to make the wager.
And if you lose, if you bet $100 and you lose, you're actually paying $110.
Right.
So that in theory, the money that's transferred, the money you lost, $100, is transferred to some other dude who won, and that the casino is raking the pot for $10, if you will.
Right. So if it says minus 110 on the bet, that means that it's 10 cents on every dollar.
So I do believe
to the house.
I
if
do
you
believe
lose.
the line moves to keep it pretty close to even, so that they don't, not because they're not trying to maximize their profit, but because they're trying to minimize their loss. They need it to be as close to even as possible because they can't take a bath on it because they need to be able to stake tomorrow.
And they would, in theory, they certainly want us to believe that. If there's a bit more malicious intent and design behind it.
But I think it's very Ponzi scheme-ish in a way, right? They're holding all the money, they're generating all the money, but they need to keep the wheel moving.
That's fair. In an ideal world, what you're describing is absolutely fair. But I think what we've seen, the result of the product on the field, is just another stark reminder that life is anything but fair.
So
Right.
let me ask you this: do we feel that now that casinos are owned by corporations and not mobsters, and that gambling is sanctioned by the government and not done in a back alley, that everything is on the level, on the up and up?
I think absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think you're dealing with some very, very, very. I mean, collectively, the NFL owners, they have to be one of the most powerful
Group
governing bodies
Right,
that
group of
exist on the planet, not just in this country.
Well, I think
I mean,
the
they're
32 combined value.
their aggregated
is
wealth
ridiculous.
makes them the most powerful
Oh.
small group of individuals. Now, none of those individuals not a single one of the NFL owners didn't step over, shit on, take advantage of countless people to amass their wealth.
That's not true.
If you're that wealthy,
That's not true. Mark Davis.
The exception to the rule.
okay, the exception to the rule is
31 out of 32 of them motherfuckers.
the
did
exception
exactly
to the
what you
rule.
said, though.
The exception to the rule is a
Oh,
guy
you could
that.
throw, what's his name? McNair there, right?
The exception to the rule is
Yeah.
look, Mark
Yeah.
Davis. You know how I define Mark or describe Mark
No,
Davis?
their money came from.
Yeah, but he inherited that.
So did
but
Mark
their
Davis,
money
though.
came from business.
Mark Davis is
Al
literally
Davis didn't.
the-
Their money came from coaching, playing, being NFL.
Mark Davis to me reminds me of like there's a lot of cartoon characters that are based on real people. Mark Davis is like a human being that someone designed based on a cartoon character. That is like the other way with it. He's so weird.
Shiny and shit.
What if you pull up a picture of him? I defy you to not spend way more time than you thought you were going to spend, like trying to understand what you're looking at.
We're gonna need to see a
You gotta
picture
pull Mark
of
Davis
Mark
up
Davis.
You gotta put him up
And you gotta like
First
first
of
what
all-
am I looking at? Animal, vegetable, mineral. Like what the
Look-
fuck is this thing?
Top
How is this a
10.
real person?
Top 10 number one bad haircuts. Period. Worst
Who doesn't care? Like,
billionaire haircut.
Yeah, and he has
Hands
to
down.
know. No, well, Donald Trump is the worst billionaire.
I don't think Donald Trump's a billionaire. How about that?
Okay. I mean, that would
I think
take him out of the.
I think he's got millions.
I believe he's a
Maybe
billionaire.
hundreds of
I think
millions.
he's like just in the 1 billion range.
He
I think
might.
he's a
He
billionaire.
might be a Russ Hanneman. He might be in the 9-figure.
No, I think he's like 1.2 or 1.3 before he became president. So he'll probably leave office as a 3 or 4 point situation because that's how the president always rolls.
He's not the
Not
president
just-
of Mexico.
All right.
Sorry, Vicente Fox.
I think we're digressing.
We straight-
think.
I don't want any part of that.
I
shit.
think that there is a marked decline. There's a definitive difference in just how bad the NFL officiating has been. Not coincidentally, in the same year that gambling has become decriminalized on a national scale, we suddenly are getting by far the worst officiating product that we've ever seen in the NFL. And furthermore, I contend that the way that the rule book is going, they very specifically have begun to change and design the rules in the NFL to leave it open to, it's very subjective.
Interpretation,
A lot of these rules are like,
Yeah.
the referee could go one way or the other with it, and that allows them,
And then
in my opinion,
based on which way they go, right? Some things can and can't be challenged. That's another thing. What you can and cannot do.
they've very meticulously begun to design the rules so they
Almost-
can be left open to interpretation, and they can't be wrong no matter which way they
like
call it.
lawyers fucking litigating, dude.
Like litigating, and therefore I don't believe that the NFL can like fix a football game to the degree that the exact outcome that they want to happen happens. But I do believe that they have now given themselves a steering wheel that they can direct the game in a direction very subtly.
They can direct. They may not be able to direct the final score, but they can direct the closeness of the spread.
Very subtly they're directing, and if you're simplistically looking at it like, I just think that Vegas and the NFL want the Patriots to win this game, it's way too simple of it's not a yes or no. There are bets on the first half, there are bets on each quarter, there are bets on the over and the under. So you could be looking at it from one lens, and they're looking at it from the macro on a macro level. Collectively, a number is spit out when they've plugged in all of the wagers of what is the most favorable outcome of this game, both in point total and who comes out on top, and then they know that singular outcome that will profit the most money, in my opinion, and then they're steering these games in that very specific direction.
Real quick,
I mean, it's foolish to think that they're
back
going
to
to.
that one thing real quick. So you have this green one highlighted. So
Well, no, this one, there's a key up here, and again, we'll put this on the screen. So all of these colors down here indicate like so this is a change in the last 10 minutes.
But when I look at the lines for that guy, this guy stands starkly different from all the other lines. So he's a half point.
And that's
So
the win.
he's at
at
minus
the
one.
win, at the win, it's -1.
He's at
right now.
-1, but they're at 59 for the over.
Yeah.
Right. So these guys want you to take the under, and they want you to take New England.
Or, so let me ask you this, because it seems like you know a little bit more about how these sports books operate. Are these lines, when they first open, do they move based on the percentage of money, or do you think they have
they move.
a total value? Let me finish the way that I'm explaining this. Do you think that they're like, this line is going to stay here until we are 10 million in the red on one side or the other, or are they more sensitive because maybe the only bet that comes in, even if it's $1 million, is on one side, and therefore the line's going to immediately move, and it's going to, as more money comes in, it's going to take a greater amount of money because it's a percentage of movement that they're interested in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like
So
how you
one
said,
wager at the very beginning when there's no money on the line could have pushed this 1.5 down to 1.
Well, what they do is they throw an initial number up there, and that's where it starts. So you start betting on that number. That's the opening line, and then they go from there. So if you're trying to get it at a certain, so in this case, like we said, the win is at -1, and that you were waiting for it to get at 1, right? That's where you have to play that. Or if
Something pushed it to 1.
right, something pushed it to 1. It was most likely a large wager
Came in on the Rams.
on the Rams.
Yeah.
at the win.
At the win, specifically
If-
at the win.
For 13 days into this line being available, the wager that came in today would probably be just a blip on the radar. And wouldn't
Because-
move it because there's all kinds of money.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
don't
much
care.
smaller percentage of the
And
overall.
your book doesn't care what the other books are doing. Now you don't want to be like 2 or 3 point difference. Like
You
y'all are all
want
going
to
to
be within striking.
Y'all
But
are all going to be
but
around
look,
the same.
In other words-
a 2.5 to a 1. That's a huge split to me.
Right. Yeah. So again, like that's a field goal. I mean, they're trying to make this seem like 1 and 2.5 in football are the same, right? Like there's no 1
There's
point
no
play.
difference.
Now,
But
geographically,
there is.
of the lines that are posted here on this board right now, which property is closest to win geographically? And I'm not going to say that anyone sitting here knows that. If one of these other 1.5s moves down to 1 while we're sitting here talking, then that potentially, this person, group, whatever, that moved that win line, maybe moving on to another casino to try
This
to
is
take
the
advantage
closest place
of what
to
they
it,
see.
right here.
What is?
Mirage.
So let's see if the Mirage or something.
TI's across
Okay,
the
so
street.
one of
basically.
these suddenly goes down to 1, and then the point total goes up.
Yeah. So.
Then maybe there's someone systematically like walking, physically moving.
Well, yeah, people
from
do
one
that,
property to
and
the
that's
other.
not unheard
Right.
of. They call those bettors
And if
sharps.
if
which
this
is
sharp-
basically-
this sharp is keen on the Rams and keen on the under,
yeah, then he's getting the numbers now before they start moving, drastically one way or another.
And
And that's not to say that.
I do feel like the money's going to be coming in on New England.
Yeah, and
So
that
I
doesn't
think
mean
he's
that the
making
numbers
the smart
are going to
moves
move
now.
drastically. Like what we're looking at now, maybe
What it
come
is when it
kickoff.
closes,
Yeah,
yeah.
come
it would
kickoff.
be nice to know who that
Is
is. That RJ Bell or is that just some idiot with a lot of money?
No,
Because if you know it's RJ
It's
Bell,
not RJ
if you
Bell.
know it's RJ Bell, then you're like, boom, I'm
Yeah,
going
we know it's
Rams.
not 2
and the
weeks.
under.
Not 2 weeks before.
I'm going Rams of the
No,
under.
it's not
I bet
RJ
RJ
Bell.
Bell is probably actively putting some money on these games. Maybe whether he's publicizing it or not, whatever he thinks is going to happen. If he can capitalize the way this other
I
guy
think
did,
these lines being so close right now, being at 1, being at 1.5, being at 2, I think that's such a small number right now. It's hard not to try to put money in on it.
and I know we're digressing away from what we kind of wanted to talk about, which is the impact on the product on the field. But this is to me more fascinating right now.
I think it is just
And
because
these
of
numbers
what's
are very
coming out.
sensitive this early.
Right.
Minimal amount of money will move these numbers because we're
Right.
so early in the process. So I kind of like that we're going with this. And I'm really intrigued to see if one of these other numbers, these 1.5s, drops
So,
down to 1.
and again, like if you're using an offshore book, right? If you have a local guy, and a lot of times those offshore books will be using one of these lines. So the
So they're
the
mirroring
local
or-
guy that I use, okay, the local guy that I use.
Just for fun, not for real money, because that's not legal.
Exactly. Our friendly neighborhood
Peanuts.
peanuts guy. He tells us that, we can basically set it to any book. For now we use the consensus, and the consensus is an actual line.
Gotcha. So your
It's
guy
an
that's
actual book.
your
It's
guy
an
that's
actual line that you can use, the consensus. The general consensus here.
That gives you the overall.
So the general consensus right now is 1.5.
Minus 1.5 New England.
50.
Total is at 58.
And that gives you, and that movement at the win may have pushed us down just from 2 to
Well,
1.5.
no. So you would see one of these color indicators on there, right?
Okay.
If it just moved.
that consensus
exactly.
1.5.
So it was
So
just this guy. This guy rolled up in there. Maybe he was already there. Maybe he was just having a grand old time. Just won a bunch of money on Brady.
he's probably waiting for sure for that. His
Yeah,
numbers
so,
are
I
probably
mean-
on the board.
And he could
Or
have put it in.
girl.
So yeah, or a lady. We never know. He, she, he. You never know. Could have been any of them. However,
Oh, they.
they.
Yeah.
So they could have gotten it at minus 1.5, right? And when they put that in, it moved. Right?
Got it.
Well, it's the only one with a color change.
Yeah, so it's the only
mine's only
one.
been up for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right, so-
they've been up for a little bit, so.
So where do we want to go from from this? We're kind of again talking about we're getting into an area where maybe we're going to lose interest a bit.
Well, no. So I mean, you needed to know about
Fair. Yeah, no, totally.
about the line. So again, we will have this up on the screen for you on the studio.
Yeah, I think we're almost ready to be
Yeah,
wrapping
yeah.
it up here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the majority of us, there are 3, so all it would take would be 2 people for there to be a majority. I think the majority of us are starting to really understand or already have been in complete understanding of the fact that the fix is in. And it may be unanimous
It may be.
here that to some degree the fix is in. I think it's a pretty realistic thing that we now why the fix is in. I think there's a bit of differing opinions here. Earlier, as we kind of were plotting out the direction of this show, AB, you were talking about you believe that they're kind of molding and massaging the image and the product itself as far as from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, I feel like the opportunity to kind of cement an LA fan base. They just moved back to the city. It's the second largest market in the U.S. As far as viewing market goes. Their history with the NFL and their support of the NFL has been checkered at best. And, I think it's a little too convenient the way this has all come about.
I mean, just to quickly divert this conversation, an NFL franchise has never been able to, it's never been sustainable in LA. And they fucking suddenly go and put 2 there? Like, what? They've never had success. What are they thinking? What do they know that we don't know?
And you look at the way both of those
It's
teams
fucking ridiculous.
showed out
So,
this season, right?
One of those teams
There's a
is
lot
going
of
to
new
lead
people that
within-
live in the Los Angeles area, and those people are fans of football. Now, right?
Okay.
Years ago, that was not the case. I mean,
So isn't San Diego close enough that you also are able to capture that southern market? It's not close enough.
well, I mean, it's a different mentality there, right? It's
Totally. Let's go to
totally
San
there. It's
Diego.
just- come on,
Uh,
man. Just-
If you
I
live
mean,
if
yeah.
you
don't
live
have
in
time for
LA,
football.
We're doing
We're
if
doing
you live in LA,
we're bastardizing.
it's like
Well, I mean,
it's a couple hour drive down.
traditional-
To San Diego, man. We're
Right.
not doing that.
Right,
shit.
right.
Yeah, we're doing old school.
No,
California.
we're going
This is
PG.
totally new.
No,
Not
it's
just to
just
watch the 90s
catching
Chargers.
breakers at PV, bro.
You were doing that 2-hour drive to go watch.
Nah,
the Chargers.
fuck no.
All right, so you believe that they have a keen eye.
No, I feel like that it's probably in the long run the most beneficial thing for cementing a franchise in LA.
Okay, so your eye on the long game that the NFL is playing. Now, I contend to you, or I counter your kind of viewpoint with the idea that, they could massage that product over a great length of time. So the outcome of today's games, while being just a small piece of the overall marketing aspect of the Los Angeles team, there's a much more lucrative and immediate impact, and that's the pile of money sitting on the table. If you believe, as I do, that the NFL has already found a way to tap into that revenue stream, that they're about to be partnered with sports books and be legitimately taking some of the money out of sports gambling. But I contend that under the table, they've already found a way to tap into that revenue stream, and that they have a definitive vested interest in the outcomes of these football games, and that to me is why they're steering that there's a pile of cash on the table today that could either be there when the game ends, or it could disappear if the results are not in their favor. Because I also personally believe that whatever they report about these point spreads, that they have a keen understanding of how a game's going to end because they can affect the outcome, and that a lot of times there's probably like 70, 80, 20 money on one side versus the other, and if they can impact the outcome of that game and they can rake the 80 instead of losing the 80, you think they're going to leave that up to chance? These
No.
powerful men that are willing to take advantage and walk
Absolutely.
all over people,
Absolutely.
that they're going to have this huge pile of money revenue stream here, and that in this one area of their lives that they're going to be moral and they're going to be stand up and like suddenly they're going to be ethical when they're otherwise not. That's
You're
that's
right.
insane.
You're right.
That's insane
That may be the
to think
case.
that.
They may have found a way to tap into it now. If they have, they would never admit it. They're more likely to admit my scenario.
Right, yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'll take.
Of course,
I'll
we're never
take
gonna
mine
admit it, but-
as doctrine, and we'll just.
But it's crazy, like what we're describing, what we see in these games today, by the way, because again, you can't just look at the aggregate of the penalties in a game and say, oh, they wanted New England to win or they wanted KC to win.
Right.
They had a singular outcome again. That was the aggregate of all the bets on the over, all the bets on the under, all the prop bets, all the money line bets, all the first half and the first quarter, and all that stuff.
And they knew.
And there is an outcome where they can profit the most, squeeze the most juice out of that lemon, and they steer the game in that direction. So
no,
that
that makes sense.
It's as important because again, a very simplistic way to look at it is just the penalties that are called. There's a whole other half of the steering of the outcome of the game, and that's the penalties that are not called, right? So you've got to look at things that aren't called, things that are called, why they may be calling those things that way, the calls that are available to them as a subjective decision that could go one way or the other, and they've got plausible deniability no matter which way they go with it. I mean, who's in the guy's ear when he's standing at that replay camera on the sideline? Who is really talking to him?
Someone who knows.
And who's talking to them? Like,
Yeah.
it's we'll never know these things, but
We
it's
won't.
becoming painfully obvious
Unless
to
the
me.
integrity of the game is tested
It-
in the next few years to the point where the U.S. government actually has to instill some sort of integrity official within these leagues, right?
Well, what
Isn't that what
probably
the
happened?
commissioner's supposed to be? Isn't that how the commissioner
Exactly,
came
right.
about?
But all of a sudden, who's watching the Watchmen?
Again,
right?
this is a very idealistic viewpoint on how this thing could be fixed. What would actually happen is that the government will step in, not from a moral, they'll paint it as a moral position, but they're going to step in and they're going to say, we have a moral obligation to the people of this country to keep this game fair. But meanwhile, the real story is we want our fucking cut.
Well, they're
You
gonna
guys
get
are
their
getting your
cut.
cut.
They get their cut already.
You guys-
That's the.
So look,
they're getting the
if-
taxes in this.
The cut, the under the table cut.
No, they don't need the under the table cut.
If this is
They're
the way
getting
it
more
is,
than.
and if this is what it becomes, then the NFL will be no better than the WWF.
It already is.
Yeah,
in my
that's the
opinion,
thing.
that's
It's
the
a
perfect
show.
analogy.
It's a
That would
show.
be
That's the perfect. Let's give them a shout.
It's a show,
It's
exactly.
already, yeah.
If you're not entertained by this,
Look, at least
Turn it
at
off.
least
Watch
basketball
something
refs can't fix the games.
yeah. But and
And
on that note,
women.
ladies and gentlemen,
I mean,
it's
hey,
real.
this to me, this is a crazy story that came out, and I'll end with this. This is my last comment, or whatever we want to call it. It came out recently, within the last year. It came out. The head of FIFA, from several years back, admitted openly that he fixed the World Cup. And you want to talk about a revenue stream that makes the NFL's revenue stream and gambling stream pale in comparison. The amount of money that is wagered on professional soccer and the World Cup, the NFL's money is a drop in the bucket. So why, when the former head of FIFA came out and said that he had fixed the World Cup, why did that story arrive and then immediately disappear in a matter of a few days? That's the biggest
Well,
It's bad for
story.
business.
Didn't they kill the whistleblower?
It's bad for business.
That's the
The
largest.
whistleblower just got murdered this last week too.
That's the biggest story, in my opinion, the biggest story on sports that's come out in the last 25 years is that he openly admitted that they fixed the World Cup. We're talking about billions of dollars changing hands in wagering in just a matter of a few short weeks. That story should have been like headlines everywhere. We should still be dissecting that story, and instead it went away in a matter of days.
It's because it's
gone.
soccer.
yeah, exactly.
So the future of U.S. sports books, the future of U.S. sports books is the UK. There's a Barclays on every corner.
Yeah,
right.
that-
that
story didn't just disappear domestically. That story disappeared.
But that's
Worldwide,
because
in a matter of
journalists blowing the whistle on soccer are getting taken out.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably
Dude,
true.
You don't
Probably
want to fuck
true.
with
Yeah.
that, man.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, gentlemen.
So guys, another good episode. This was a good time.
Got our new
next week we want to talk more about gambling. I feel like I feel like we should make some money on this somehow.
Yeah, we can
Let's
start to do
monetize
a
this one way or another.
wager on the show leading up to Super Bowl.
We absolutely need bragging rights, right? Number one. But I think we should juice this as well as
Maybe perhaps we can make we introduced on the very first episode the wager board, and we've got one wager currently on that board.
But that's a long-term wager.
No, we want to have
futures
It's
play.
a future.
but maybe it's something
That's a
we
super
can,
future.
maybe it's something we can throw up at the beginning or the end of the show. The running tally, have it on the board, a digital version of the wager board.
Yeah.
Right now we have one wager for anybody that's just tuning in for the first time. That wager being on the ultimate destination for Kevin Durant
Yeah,
At the
free
end-
agency.
at the end of the 2018-2019 NBA season. But
Coming soon.
we'll revisit that again next
2024.
week. Yeah.
All right.
Fair enough.
Good job, boys.
Yeah.
Tune in next week.
We'll see you guys.